Hi, and welcome to pmplounge.com. This is one of the most important PMP related videos that you will ever watch. So, these are the top 5 PMP exam tips and how you can always pick the right answer. So, this is what we are discussing today. Like I said, this is going to be hands down one of the most important PMP related videos that you will ever see. So, what are the top 5 exam tips? What are the tricks? What are the tips? How can I select the right answer all the time, every single time? Let's look into it. Let's look into the top 5 tips and let's get started. Tip number one, some questions in the exam will be too wordy and contain rubbish information. So make a note of this, understand this, that there will be questions which will contain rubbish information. This information will be totally irrelevant and will not relate to the correct answer. Remember, it isn't necessary to use all the information provided to answer the question. And finally, the most important point in this tip number one is that it is a good practice to read the last line of a wordy question first. So, whenever you see a question which seems way too big and you feel as if it is going to take a while to read that question, read the last line of the question first. Try to understand what exactly is the question about. What exactly is it want you to answer? Once you have an idea of what exactly the question is about, you will be able to read the question and kind of take note of only the information which is relevant to that question. You will easily be able to ignore the rubbish information which will be available in that question. So that's my tip number one for you on how you can tackle wordy questions with a lot of rubbish information. Another thing to note here is that, in our schools, we have questions wherein we make use of all the figures, all the data given in the question, right? We have that tendency to use all the information from our school time or college time and other exams. But PMP is different from such exams. PMP may have questions wherein all the data, all the information given in the question might not be required for you to answer the question correctly. So keep that in mind and always try to read the last sentence of the question first whenever you encounter a, a question which seems to be too wordy. Let's move to tip number two. There is only one correct answer. Now, it's obvious, right? You may ask, why am I even putting this here in tips and tricks? You all know, we all agree that there will only be one correct answer, right? How is this even a tip? Well, the problem is that you may face certain questions in the PMP exam wherein all the answers will look correct. By answers here, I mean all the options for a question will look absolutely correct, and you need to select the most appropriate one, right? So there could be certain questions wherein you see the problem and you see the options and you feel like all four of them are good options, all four of them are correct, maybe a correct answer, but you need to then decide the priority of those options, and you need to then decide which one is going to be the most appropriate one. Again, here, when you say that you may feel that all the choices are correct, try to distinguish between them which of these choices are true statements but not relevant to the question. Now, that is important, right? So, that is why you need to read all the options to be able to select the best one. So if you find a question, right, and you read the option number one and you feel option number one is the correct answer and you select option number one, but then if you read option number two, you may realize that it seems correct too. Come to option three, it seems correct too. And come to option number four, that is also correct. So, how do you tackle such questions? Well, number one is to make sure you read all the options. Number two is to distinguish between these options by understanding whether these options are true statements, simply true statements, but not the right answer, you know. So certain options in the questions could be just true statement, could say that, um, they may talk about negative risks. You can accept negative risks. Now that is a true statement, but the question may not be talking about risk at all. That is just a true statement to kind of make the question much more difficult to answer, right? So read all the options, try to see if if the options are simply true statements but not relevant to the question. And number three, if they are relevant to the question, then try to understand which of those four is going to be the most appropriate step to take, right? Which of those four is going to be the most appropriate option? You can do that by prioritizing those options, right? If you have four options and all of them seem correct, all of them are not just true statements, they are obviously true statements, but they seem to be correct answer as well, then you can prioritize what would you do first, what would you do second, what would you do third, what would be your fourth step to tackle, to take in such a situation, right? And then your priority number one is going to be the correct answer. So that is how you tackle questions which may seem to have four correct answers, but you need to select the most appropriate one. Okay, tip number three, PMI perspective takes precedence over your own perspective. Now, this is important, right? This is extremely important, especially for our experienced project managers. Because if you have been doing project management, if you have been a project manager for 25 years, how you tackle situations is ingrained in your mind. And that might not be the perspective of PMI. That might be your own perspective based on your industry, based on your projects, based on your experience, and based on the kind of stakeholders and situations that you are basically part of, right? So you need to understand that you may have vast real life experience, right? But while answering questions in the PMP exam, you need to think through the mind of a PMP certified project manager, through the mind of what PMI expects the project managers to be doing, right? So that is something experienced project managers tend to have an issue with, but you need to understand that the environment that PMI presents, the questions that you see in the PMP exam, right? The environment of those questions is the ideal environment for project managers. And in our real life jobs, we might not have ideal environment, right? So we might not be acting the way PMI expects project managers to act in real life scenarios and in real life situations. But while answering questions in your PMP exam, consider that you are a project manager in an ideal environment and you are taking steps uh, from the perspective of PMI and not from your own perspective. Let's move on to tip number four. Beware of generalizations, right? So if you see words like always, never, must, or completely, then these often tend to be the incorrect choices, right? So beware of generalizations. When you see generalizations in the option, your answer options, if you see generalizations, if you see options that have words like always, never, must, or completely, those are probably going to be incorrect choices. At the same time, seek special cases characterized by words like often, sometimes, may, generally, and perhaps. These choices tend to be the correct answer. So, quite simple, right? All you need to do is if you're selecting an option that has one of the words which generalize everything, like always, never, must, or completely, the option that you're selecting could be incorrect. So try to check it again, try to recheck it. And if you have an option in a question which has uh, special cases and which have words like often, sometimes, may, generally, and perhaps, those options, I mean, that particular option in the question could be your correct answer. So this is not a, 100% true case. There could be case wherein always, never, must, or completely words are used in an option, and that is your correct answer. So don't take it with a pinch of salt, but yeah, that is what we have kind of realized, and this is what the experience of PMP past aspirants say, that generalizations are usually incorrect, special cases are usually correct. So seek that. All right, so tip number 5, and this could be a surprise for some of you. The correct answer may not be grammatically correct. Now, I don't really want to speak much on this. I don't want to question um, the folks who design the questions and answers of the PMP exam, but I don't want to question their English ability, that is. But what I'm trying to say here is there could be certain questions wherein you may have an option that seems to be correct answer, but you feel as if it is grammatically incorrect, and a grammatically incorrect option cannot be the right answer. That is something which is uh, which is not a criteria. Okay, so if you feel that that an answer is correct, although it is not grammatically correct formed sentence, that will still be applicable as a correct answer. So don't look out. PMP is not a test of English. Don't look out for 100% correct English in the correct options. If you feel that an answer is correct and it does not really have a correct English grammar usage, you can still go ahead and mark that option if you're 100% sure that it is the correct answer. So don't look out for grammatically correct English in your options to select. All right, so in your options to select the right answer, that is. So that is all that we had in this video. Hope you enjoyed and liked all the 5 tips, and hope you are going to make use of these tips when you appear for your PMP exam. Do subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and check us out on our social media, facebook.com/PMP Lounge and twitter.com/PMP Lounge. As always, do check out the website pmplounge.com, your number one free resource for PMP certification and project management industry information. Thank you.